Is this legendary coach Bobby Bowden's last season as the head coach of the Seminoles? Will Tim Tebow start versus LSU, and does it even matter with the Gators #1? And the University of Miami back to prominence and dominance, and how we doing with Florida's NFL teams? That's Gameface today on FLSportsFan.com with our good friend, the sports addict, Gary Fineout. Gary, hottest story in state sports and all over ESPN. The chairman of the Board of Trustees at FSU saying it's time for Bobby to go.
Well, yeah, and you basically, Jim Smith steps out there, says, hey, I think it's time for him to go. He's been a great guy over the years, but we need to make some moves and we need to make some changes. And boy, is this this story just keeps getting more and more interesting.
But is it, the season 2 and 3, it's kind of lost, right? This is a lost season for the Seminoles.
Well, I mean, they could still come back with a winning record. They can still go to a bowl game. But the point is, if Bobby Bowden is all about winning championships, no, this is not a championship season.
Okay, many people think he built this program. He put FSU on the map, not just athletically, but academically. Let this guy go when he chooses to go, which is probably pretty soon anyway.
Well, and I think that's the way they wanted this to work out. But the problem is that for recruiting and for other reasons, they handed the keys of the kingdom to Jimbo Fisher. Well, now we got all these allegations and insinuations. You don't know what to believe or not to believe, that somehow there's disarray in the locker room and you're not sure who's in charge. Well, so at some point in time, where does the buck stop with? Well, the buck stops with the president of the university and with Bowden.
Okay, just call it right now, Gary. Is this Bowden's last season as head coach?
I think so, without a doubt.
Really?
It's either going to happen pretty or it's going to happen with ugly. But I think one way or the other, I think he's gone.
And maybe the handwriting is, once they build a statue in your honor and name the field after you, it's time to go. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think the time would have been after he won his last national title.
That was 10 years ago.
Well, right. And what has happened in the last 10 years.
All right, let's segue to the #1 team in the nation, the Florida Gators. Don't know if Tebow's going to play because he hasn't been practicing the last week and a half. But don't they go in there to Baton Rouge and win anyway, even with the great backup quarterback they have?
No.
Oh, Gary.
Let me ask you this, Ron. Who's the best quarterback in the state of Florida right now? Is it Tim Tebow? Is it Ja'Cory Harris? Is it Christian Ponder? Because when I look at the season so far, I see those guys as actually having better games and better stats. The end of the day is, I think that Florida already looked suspect again.
Gary, you were a loser last season by picking on the Gators, and they stomped all over your head.
I'm not
and so you basically
had
stop. You had a love affair with them on championship week. Now all of a sudden you're a Gator hater again.
No,
you know what?
I don't think you go into Death Valley at night and win.
Gary, I'll say to you
again, with a hurt
quarterback, stop smoking whatever you're doing in your off time. The Gators are #1. They're going all the way.
I'll see you
Let's go to the University of Miami very quickly. What a game they had. 3 out of 4 against all-ranked teams. They beat up on Oklahoma.
Outstanding game against Oklahoma. I mean, it's just like they fought them all the way to the end, and they pulled it out. And I think, boy, they look really good. Harris looks really great. I already said it earlier. Hey, what about this guy for the Heisman?
I mean, how about the Bulls now? USF Bulls?
Well, the Bulls, they have a tough game next week against Cincinnati. If they beat Cincinnati, another top 20 team, then you got to think about, well, hey, where do they belong in the echelon?
All right, we're going to relegate the NFL this week to the lightning round. And very quickly, the Dolphins win a high-scoring affair and turn their season around. Now at 1-3, but they beat Buffalo soundly.
Right, they beat Buffalo soundly. The big test is this week against the Jets.
Whoa,
if they beat the Jets in Miami, then, hey, the season looks really promising once again. But, I don't know what's going to happen.
And the Jags at 2-2 looked very good in their game.
Night and day from where they were at the beginning of the season.
And I think that Jack Del Rio, a great coach, great inspiration. But the Bucks stop here, still woeful at 0-4.
Yeah, and I don't know when they're going to win a game.
Well, Gary, this week's penalty flag, very rare host prerogative, is reserved for throwing it across the state in your face. Gary Fineout, sports addict, picking on Gators and Tim Tebow, and once again, they will show you the error of your ways. Any final words, Gary?
No, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I think that the odds are stacked against them.
Wrong. On this day, this time, wrong again, Gary. Okay, we hope all your favorite teams win this weekend, particularly if you're a Bucks fan. And go to FLSportsFan.com for all the latest on your college and pro Florida teams. Gary Fineout, thanks for all the abuse you take on this show, though most of it's deserved. We'll see you next week.